Welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the issues related to delivering new metro trains and trams from either the customs office or the rail production depot to where you need them on the map in realistic mode. Now, this video is going to consist of a number of sections, an introduction where I'm just going to talk about realistic mode and some of the reason why you need to do this. Then the next part will be I'll talk about trams, and then in the last part I'll talk about metros. If you want to jump to a specific section, there will be timestamps in the video to take you to the relevant section. What I'll do first is I'll just show you what you could call normal mode, which is if you're playing without realistic mode enabled. In fact, let's just show you where, because you can switch it off and on as and where you want. Come to game settings. Down here it says realistic mode disabled. Now, if I enabled that, what would happen is that I would no longer be able to buy trams in this area here, but I'm not going to do that because I can demonstrate the issues without actually turning that on. And of course that opens up the opportunity that if you want to play realistically without all the restrictions of realistic mode, you can do this yourself. So if you can't buy the trams from there, where can you get them? Well, there's two sources. The first one, which is probably the commonest source, is the actual customs shed here. You can come in here, come up to this button here and select trams, and what you'll get is all the available trams that you can purchase. Now, one thing you do need to remember is that you can only buy Soviet vehicles on a Soviet customs post. If you want NATO vehicles, you've got to go to a NATO customs post. And the other source, which is once you've got a fairly mature game like I'm looking at here, is the construction offices. So I've got this one here where you can basically queue up. I need to actually queue up some covered holes. And then you've got one for trains here, and what I've been doing is I've set up a template and I've been manufacturing metro trains. But with respect to picking up from the construction offices, the principles is exactly the same as with a customs office. So that's the introduction over. What we're going to do now is talk about the moving trams from this customs post to the depot that we were looking at the beginning of the video. And there's three ways to do it. And what I'll do is I'll run through the three scenarios just to give you some background. Now, the first scenario is you're going to use trucks. Now, the reason you would use a truck is if you haven't actually got a rail network. So say, for example, I was going to run I'd put a tram network into Foodville here. I mean, it doesn't one exist, but just pretend. This has got no rail connection. So you've got two choices. You either lay in a very complex rail connection just to deliver trams, or you actually use vehicles. So what you do is we'll go into here, and what you can do is we'll buy the trams. Now, one thing you need to be aware about is size. Now, not every tram in here is transportable by road. And I've done a little bit of testing, and well, I'll just show you. I think, well, 28 meters is definitely not. I think 16 meters is the upper limit. I'm going to buy that one as well. So just to show you. So if we come in here, down here, you get a list of the vehicles that you have in the build. And if you open this up and then click this button here, it will actually show, oh, this one will actually fit on our RMD 1912 256 flatbed. And I think that's about it. And a couple of other vehicles. And this one will come into here. Click on this. This one will fit on a standard KMZ 54 there. I think what we'll do is, just as an example, we're going to buy an open hole. We're going to buy the KMZ here. And then to move it to the depot, what you need to do is click on here. And now this is very important. You've got to click on this. Otherwise it will treat the other commodities. Then we need to go up to our tram depot. So we've got to get to the tram depot here. And again, very important, click on this. I'll just flip back to here. Just speed the game up. Oh, of course, he's got to go and get fuel. Right, what I'll do is I'll come back once he's actually picked up the fuel. Okay, welcome back. Now, what the consequence of not clicking the lower button is that the truck will go in, but they won't actually pick up the tram, because if you don't have this set here, it will assume that you're just delivering the other commodities, and because you've said that you're picking up this, it doesn't know where to drop this down. So what will happen is the truck will do the route, but he won't actually deliver the tram. What you'll see is the tram, it will now transport the tram up here. And what I'll do is I'm just going to let the game run, and I'll just show you where the truck dropping off the tram at the other end. So here we are, guys. We're just approaching the tram depot. Now if you watch the tram, the truck will come in and drop off, and then what will happen is the truck will return to its original depot, simply because this depot doesn't actually accept trucks, and that's something that's quite important for later on. Anyway, we're just going to let him wander off and do his own thing. Now for the next two options, I need to show you this configuration up here. Now the next option we're going to look at is direct delivery of the trams, and this is the reason why this line goes through directly to here. Now this option only really works if you've got fully electrified track. You can't do this with if you've got diesel track. There has to be a single electrified line all the way from the customs border or the production center all the way down to this track here. So if we go back over to the border again, I think we've got a tram still left. If I can find the border, where are you? So we'll just come in here, we'll just select the tram here. Now this works if you've got an electrified track, but it's not an option that I really like, for a reason I'll explain in a little while. So all we got to do then is just come up to here, and if I can find where we made the changes. And what all you got to do is tell it to change depots and go to here. If we duck back very quickly, custom shed, what you'll see is tram will come out of here, and he'll basically make his own way to the tram depot. But bear in mind that this has got a top speed of 65 kilometers an hour. Now I've got my rail network here is running trains with top speeds of 160 kilometers an hour. Again, it comes down to that if you were, say, for example, putting trams in Colville over here, and the distance is very short, because technically we got a tram network over here, but it's not a tram network because it's a rail network. But say, for example, say I'd put a tram network in here to run out to the coal mines over here. You could put a tram depot here, and that distance would be acceptable. But it's not really that efficient. So what I want to do is just show you a slightly more efficient way of doing things. So if we come in here and just buy, I'm going to buy about, come in here, helps if you want to purchase them. Say for example, trams, what we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trams, and then we come over to the depot over here, which is in the great form of something I prepared earlier. What we got here is a train, and if you come up here, and of course this is an option that you could use if you wanted to move trams along. It's the pick up there. This time this knows that all you're going to do is pick up this. So this is both a more efficient solution for electricity, but also if you're using diesel trains and you don't have a direct electrical connection, this is the option that you've got to use. If I can find where we're going. You can't send the train directly to the tram depot. This is the reason why you've got this depot here. So we're just going to click that, and then we're just going to release the train, and I'm just going to leave it on. Ups. Nope. Oh, it's still there. Good. And what's going to happen is the train's going to come in here, drop the trams off, and then we can move the trams from here to the tram depot. This is the reason why you've got this kind of T-shaped layout and like that. So if we go and find the train, sorry, not tram. So here we are, we're just approaching the customs shed. I'm just going to slow the game down so you can see what happens. Is the train will come in here. What you'll see is the train is actually picking up all the trams. So if we speed the game up again now, and I'll just pause, what you'll see is he's picked up, just didn't get clear of the station. Let me show. What he's done is he's picked up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trams. And then if we actually watch him, what you'll see is instead of plodding along at 65 kilometers an hour, we're actually moving along at 160 kilometers an hour. And that's the difference if you've got to move trams to, like I've got to here, to an area that is quite some way away from either the customs shed or the rail construction office. And more importantly, it's not by doing it this way, I'm not slowing down the other trains on the network. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut the video here and I'll pick it back up when when we arrived at the depot. Okay guys, welcome back. I'm just going to pause the game, and what you can see, this is our train hauling the 4 trams. We got a train here. If I go forward, and where is it? I think he's in the, okay, I'm just going to let it run, because what's actually happened is, get it out, let them get out of there. This is the tram that I sent by itself, still plodding along at 65 kilometers an hour. So not only is he holding up this train, but I've actually caught up with him with this train. You can see they're all stuck on signals at the moment. This is the reason why I was saying that letting trams move independently is good when the distance is relatively short. So effectively what this tram now is doing is holding this train up. This is the good example why you don't want these trams wandering around the network delivering themselves. This is a far more efficient way of doing it. And of course, if you've got diesel network, that's the only option you've got. So what I'm going to do now is just cut the video, and I'll rejoin once this train and this train gets to the actual depot. So here we are, we're just coming in. You can see the tram ahead has gone straight through, and he's behind that and delivering himself to the depot. But the train has come here. Now the first thing you need to be aware of is that unlike the truck delivery, the train stays in this depot. It doesn't return to its original depot. So if you want the train for another purpose, then you'd have to move the train between depots just by clicking on it and then coming down to here and selecting another depot. But of course, to complete the move, I'll just do the one. To get the tram so you can actually allocate it, you've got to do is come there, and then what will happen is the trams just close all this lot junk off the screen, and what you get is this tram will quite happily go to the depot, and once he's in the depot he can be allocated to a route. Just to recap this section, there's 3 ways you can move trams from a customs post or a construction office to a depot. First one is the by road, but that only really works for very small trams that will fit on the back of a truck, and also relatively short distances. I mean, if you're building a network out here a long way away from the customs post or the construction office, you probably will have rail out it, so it pays to connect it by rail. The second option is to let the tram make their own way across the map. Again, that's okay if it's if you are relatively close to the border or the construction office. When I mean that, I mean relative by train rather than by truck. But if you're populating a fairly big area like I've got here, I mean I've got multiple tram tracks, which is where I've got absolutely no idea how many trams I've got running around here already. Investing the extra cash to have this type of setup here makes quite a big difference for moving trains around the map. And I think it's also more important that when you're building in realistic road and laying the tracks out, this is something you need to consider and build, because of course in realistic mode you'll be building the tracks and all this manually, so it pays to get it right from the get-go. So that covers trams, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to reload the game, and then we're going to look at metro. Welcome to this section where we're going to be talking about moving metro trains from customs posts and construction offices to the depot, because of course we're same as with the trams, we need a depot in order to be able to allocate the route. Now before we get into showing you which is basically the only option, which is by towing it trains, I just want to explain the reason why. Now if you look at this depot here, what I've got is a metro track coming in here and a normal track coming in here. The reason for this is that metro trains will only run on metro track and normal trains will only run on normal track. The only exception is bang on time, that wasn't planned, that was purely accidental, are the construction trains. They're the only trains that can move on both types of track. So this is very important when you are actually designing your connections, especially in realistic mode, because you can remember there's a lot of investment. You do need to get these constructions right. The reason this looks pretty messy is that if anyone follow my 7 Crosses series, which is what the map we're on, I built this and I assumed that I could send the metro train from any depot into the tunnels and then forget about it. But when I tried it, it went wrong. What I did is I built this. And what this has got is a metro connection, and I thought I've cracked it. What we'll do is we'll connect the train normal track to the metro track, and then they run along this section here. But that didn't work either, and I'll demonstrate that. So let's just get into showing you what's actually going on. So first things first, I'm just going to show you that road is not an option, because if we come into here and purchase, at the top here, purchase some metros, ones I want top speed 80, so I'm going to buy about 4 of them. And if we come down to here, what you'll find is if you click on this and then click this button here, you'll see that the only option for moving metro trains besides towing them is by ship. So that is the immediate clue that tells you that right, you're going to be able to do this, no problem. Just tow them out. Whether you're running electric track or diesel track, it doesn't make any difference. It just defines what locomotive you're going to need to tow the track. So no problem, we're doing well. So just come here, find my little train here, and I'm just going to replicate the mistake that I made when I was first testing this out. For me, it was just an inconvenience. But if you're playing realistic mode, it could be a real headache. You don't need to set this checkbox because this has only got one option. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the top one, which I said has got a bad connection, just to demonstrate what's going on. If I can find it and I look at the right one. So what we got here. Now, this is where the game can mislead you. Now, I must admit, it was a bit of a source of frustration for me, because if we speed the game up, at the moment, no problem. The train is quite happily making its way to the customs shed. So here we are, we're just approaching the customs shed. The train will go in, just slow the game down. Of course, again, the train has picked up all the trams. So I'll show you in here, he's emptied all the trams. He's picked up 3 trams here. What you see here is that it's got a question mark because it can't find the route. It's also picked up 3 trams. So if you come into here, you can see we've got 3 more trams left behind. And if you click on the train and say where the problem is, it comes out to the customs shed. Because the problem is that he cannot find the route to... This is the depot he wants to get to, but he can't get to it because there's no rail connection. Now, I could build a rail track here, which I'm going to need to do in my game for this to be an order. Otherwise, this metro track won't actually work. But the better solution, and I haven't got the train, so sorry about this. We're going to pick up the train. And then if we go out to here, and of course all we got to do is click on here, and what And see, unlike normal routes, the train can only have a pickup and a destination when they're delivering. So we go back to there. If you, in theory, if I let this game run, he should work out that that's it. So he's happy now. The reason he's happy is down to the fact that he's got a normal electrified track. Now, it could be a diesel track as well. It doesn't have to be electrified. As long as the loco that's pulling the train can get from the customs shed or the train construction office to the depot, it doesn't have a problem. Just minimize that again. Right, so what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm just going to cut the video and I'll see you once the train arrives at the depot. And there we are. You can see the train's just arrived in the depot. And again, exactly the same with the tram delivery, the train stays here. What I am going to do is I'm just going to show you what happens. So if we delete this section of track here, and then just put I can't do it. Where it gets a little bit confusing. I take that out and you to there. And just fund that with dollars. You can see we've now got a track connection there. Now if I take this train here, and I'm just going to do a quick, going to go underground. You can see you can actually allocate stations. I can't allocate them all simply because all the track's not actually finished on this line. But if I come back to here, come above ground, and then press that, you get that immediately. It says first stop unreachable. The reason for that is that that's not metro, that's normal track. But if I put this back the other way, if we take out that section there, put the metro line back in, like that. And just by that, do this now, and what you'll see is he's now going to leave the depot, but he's not going to get very far because the track is not complete. So if we run underground now, and you can see he's actually going along underground, he's in the end connection. Just speed up. Oh, it's going as fast as you can anyway. We'll just let that run through. So that is a pretty good example of the things that you need to be aware of, especially when you're designing metro track for realistic mode. What he's going to do now, I'll just cut the video. I'm just curious to see how far he's going to get, because I've allocated no more stations. What he's trying to do now is find his way back. And he's got to the next station and he's suddenly realized that down the far end here, the track is not finished. So he can't turn round because the end station is there. So now he's complaining, but I was expecting that. So just to recap this section, unlike trams, which has got multiple delivery options, metro's only really got the one, which is by towed train. But you do need to plan it so that you've got these connections. Now, there's no reason, it doesn't have to be through like that. You can bring connections in there. But the key factor is that a depot that's going to be supporting a metro line, whether it's above ground or below ground, needs a normal track connection and a metro connection. I mean, technically, unless you're going to bring the metro trains back, you could just have the one connection to send them on the way, because of course you've got the end connection down here which will turn the trains around. So in theory there's no reason why a train would come back all the way back here unless you wanted it. This layout and connection is something you do need to consider very carefully if you're playing realistic mode, simply because if you get the track wrong and you build the wrong track in the wrong place, then you've got to find out some way to get the construction trains back in to build these different units. It's also worth noting that I also built this, so because I think, if I remember correctly, construction trains don't pass through depots. But correct me if I'm wrong, I need to test that again. Anyway, guys, this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. Any comments, opinions of your experiences with dealing with these issues? More importantly, if you've got a better solution for moving trams and metro trains, feel free to chuck it in the comments. So until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.